It's often misunderstood that small and quaint equate to safe and benign. However, small towns still have their devils, and soulless cruelty extends far past urban centers. Small town murders always seem like a shock to their residents, especially when that murder is a vicious stabbing of a small child.
Friday, February 11th, 1966. 6-year-old Michael and his family traveled from their home in Port McNicoll to Elmville to watch brother John's, then 12's, hockey game. Their family was familiar with the arena, and in fact, Mike would play hockey there on Tuesdays. There were 100+ people in the arena there that evening, including spectators, players, and staff. Upon arrival, John and his father, John Sr., went down to the change room to get ready for the game, while the mother took her children and seated them in the stand. Some sources mentioned that the family car had become stuck in a snowbank, and John Sr. went out to retrieve it. After the father and John met with the mother in the stands, it became clear that Michael was not with either of them. A search began inside the arena, and when it was found that Michael was not in fact inside, the search moved outside. Michael's body was found in a snowbank around 8:40 p.m. by a family friend. It is still unknown how or why Michael left the arena in the first place. Was he carried out or let out by a player's older brother or family friend? Only the killer knows. Michael's father picked up his son and drove him to the local doctor, Dr. Douglas Pachel. Up until this point, it was thought that Michael was perhaps the victim of a hit and run. It was not until the snowsuit was removed that it was clear that the boy had been stabbed brutally 7 times, 3 times in the abdomen, and then 4 times in the back as he was held face down in the mud. There was no signs of sexual assault. Footprints were also found, but they led investigators nowhere. After it was revealed that this was in fact a homicide, every single OPP officer available swarmed the Elmville arena. Everyone had their cars searched for any sort of evidence or lead, and in the following weeks, police went door to door in local homes and interviewed every single person who was at the arena that evening. It was the next day that police found their first clue, the murder weapon. It was a 21-centimeter fishing knife with a second serrated folding blade. It was found on the roof of the curling club, about 3.6 meters above and 16.5 meters away from where Michael's body was found. There were no fingerprints. Perhaps the murderer was smart enough to wipe the blade clean, or perhaps, as it was the dead of winter, just happened to be wearing gloves. No prints, but it was still a very vital piece of evidence, as the blade was a fairly unique blade made in Germany by the Ernst Gerlstein Company between 1950 and 1952. It was thought that someone may recognize it, and police canvassed stores for a possible seller, with no luck. This case, of course, remains unsolved, but there are a few tidbits of who may have been responsible. There were some people that thought it was someone from the town. Someone did commit suicide shortly after the incident, so people felt that was sort of suspicious. He also ran a sports store in town, so that could link to the knife. I will note that Elmville is very close to Georgian Bay and other large bodies of water, so owning a fishing knife wouldn't necessarily be too out of place, as many people in the area may have been avid fishers. One Reddit user noted that
there were other non-fatal attacks on children at the arena in the weeks prior, but they couldn't be linked to the murder. This murder took place about 53 years ago, so if the murderer was an older individual, they are likely deceased. However, if they were an adolescent, as many web sleuths and Reddit users believe, it is possible that they are still alive today. If the killer was, say, 15, he would be 68. Someone slipped a note under the door of a Penetang newspaper claiming to know who the killer was, but failed to reveal who they were themselves or the identity of the killer, so surprisingly, this led nowhere. The family of Michael has since moved to the east coast of Canada. This case is still an open investigation as of 2017.